Is Orlando the most popular city in the country for wakeboarding and water sports? I'm Phil Kruses, and welcome to the Orlando Real Estate Lifestyle. Today, I'll be interviewing Sam Langley. Sam is an Orlando-based professional wakeboarder, wake surfer, wake foiler, all the wakes. He's a water sports teacher. I'm going to call him a water sports guru. And yes, he's even a water sports inventor. We're going to talk more about that soon. Sam, welcome to the Orlando Real Estate Lifestyle, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, Phil. Pleasure to meet you. And also, thanks for involving me in what you got going on. Seems pretty cool.
I appreciate that, man. I'm all about Orlando. Everyone knows listening that it's my favorite city in the world, or the country at least. I think we're the best, and people like you help make that a reality. But what we're going to talk about today, what Sam and I are going to be discussing, are amongst other things, are what are the best lakes in Orlando for water sports, why Orlando is home to so many water sports professionals, how you listening can hire Sam or his colleagues for lessons in Orlando or elsewhere in the country, hint, hint, and how social media has completely changed the wakeboarding and wake sports industry and more. But before we dig in, I want to let you know where you can find Sam. He's all over social media, but mainly on Instagram. So you can find him at Samuel Langley. Lots of cool videos and stuff posted of him performing. And I want to mention his sponsors. Give them some love if you're already into water sports. He's sponsored by Hyperlight. You can find them at Hyperlight Wake on IG. They're a board manufacturer. Also, he's sponsored by Jet Pilot USA. They make vests, life vests for boarders. They're at Jet Pilot USA on IG. Also, a boat dealer that hooks Sam up. Badass, check them out. They're at Liquid Planet Marine on Instagram, just like I said it. And then finally, if you're interested in, if you're a pilot of a boat and you want to be able to communicate with your boarder behind the boat or your water sports performer, there's at BB Talkin USA. That's talking without a G, at BB Talkin USA for headsets to newer technology in the industry. And apparently it's pretty sweet. And of course, I'm a real estate agent, and one of my main lead sources are listeners like you. So when it's your time to make a real estate decision, think of me, Phil Kruses. That's Kruse with a K, Kruse. Remember, a portion of all my real estate commissions go to charity, either a charity of your choosing or to the New Image Youth Center, where I volunteer every Wednesday. I'm teaching improv this school year to the older kids. It's a lot of fun. Follow me on all my social channels, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you know them all. And of course, follow me on YouTube. If you're watching there, hit the bell, subscribe. I drop new episodes every Monday. I'm on all podcast platforms, so follow me there. If you want to hear more interesting interviews with Orlando-based folks like Sam, restaurateurs, entrepreneurs, and then interesting tips, lifestyle stuff about Orlando. So enough about the shameless plugs. Let's bring Sam in. Sam, like most of my listeners, you are not a native Floridian. So what first brought you to Orlando? And in your opinion, what makes Orlando the mecca of wakeboarding and water sports and water sports?
Yeah, so I would say I grew up in Rome, Georgia, and I spent my elementary and middle school years there. And I had an opportunity. My dad actually had the opportunity to kind of upgrade at his job, and he had a chance to move to Florida. And so at that point, my brother and I, we were, very excited. My dad actually grew up with a water sports background, and we had, somewhat of some time to be behind a boat and do the regular water skiing, kind of hit the jumps on two skis or what's called trick ski or slalom. And it was pretty fun, but we knew we'd be able to do a little bit more of that along with just, getting out of the small town that we're in and being able to go to Florida, which, Disney World, like when you're a kid of that age, that just seems like a pretty exciting thing. And so once we did that, I spent pretty much my whole high school years in Ocala, Florida, which is about an hour and 15 away. From there, during the summer, my dad purchased a small, I'd say ski boat, and my brother and I, we just grew more and more towards going on the water. We do it all the time. And before that, like in middle school, I was pretty much like a ball sports type of person. I did basketball, football, soccer, cross country, like you name it. I was pretty involved in school sports. So moving to a larger high school was a little intimidating. It was about, I'd say, like 4 times the size of the school that I was going to beforehand. So it was quite the change and
Yeah,
a
I
little
bet.
intimidating. But being able to go out on the boat with my brother while my dad was at work, or whenever my dad got off work, just kind of doing that was kind of like my outlet of where I put my activity and just like something that I wanted to do. So we started to do that just more and more, and it just became more of a desire for both of us to go and do this. And I will say my brother kind of already had the itch for it a little bit before I did, but it kind of grew on both of us. And he's a little bit older than I was, so he ended up like figuring out like at the time, this is around 2008 or 9.
Okay.
So
Right.
social media wasn't too big. And he ended up figuring out like if you want to be like you don't have any type of pedestal in the industry of like wake, then you kind of need to be in Orlando because that's where everyone's based at. That's where the photographers are to get in the magazines. Magazines were like a real big thing back in the day,
Yeah.
and just kind of where the whole industry was like happening. It's
I think
more,
some of our listeners might remember what magazines are, but maybe some don't.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's kind of like I'm kind of bummed about it because it was
Yeah.
really cool just having something like tangible and something to look forward to, and like there was a bit of like patience you had to learn with like waiting for the next one to come out, and then
Mm.
now everything's like so instant these days. I mean, it's just crazy, but you didn't have that back then. So um, yeah, in order to stay relevant, you had to kind of get in there from time to time, and that's a lot of how the photographers got paid, videographers, with some website edits, but yeah, that's how they got paid and can make a living. That's how the writers could get paid, by a page spread or like a half page spread or the full, like couple page spread. So yeah, that was pretty big, and then so him kind of paving that path, he moved to Clear Lake, which is one of the lakes here in Orlando.
Yeah, it's right by
It's really
downtown.
Yep. So it's really known for its wake history. There's been plenty of wakeboarders that have grown up. I'm actually looking at it right now, but there's plenty of wakeboarders now, wake surfers, and just as it's developed, there's a lot of wake history of riders that are legends that have come through here and lived here at one time, or definitely have ridden on the lake multiple times for photo shoots and whatnot. So,
How long do you think Orlando's been the Mecca? The place you had to be if you had to guess.
man, I would probably say, it hasn't been around all that long. I would say
That's true.
wake board, like to separate from skiing and slalom and trick skiing.
Mhm.
Um, I think wake, really kind of started in probably the 80s,
Okay.
maybe late 70s going into the 80s. And I think it really didn't develop. It was kind of frowned upon. Like if you remember how snowboarding kind of came about in like the skiing industry, like it wasn't really like, like it was kind of, there was a little bit of a battle
Friction.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it really kind of started to take off and get popular like late 80s going into the 90s. Um, but yeah, I'd probably have to say probably the beginning of that. I know a lot of the riders came out of like the ski shows in Winter Haven. Um, so like I know, yeah,
About
I
an
mean,
hour west about an hour west of Orlando, yep. Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So and then some on the Butler chain as well in Windermere. But yeah, that like it's kind of was planted and evolved in here. I would say like most of the riders that I can think of that really catapulted the whole wake scene kind of came from this area, and just the weather being able to do it pretty much year round.
Yep.
I mean, it serves its purpose as well. It's a great place to do it. Some people are scared of gators, but honestly, there's plenty of lakes that don't have that activity. A lot, like if someone comes to Florida and goes on the lake to do lessons, like, do you ever see like gators at all? But you can go to lakes where it's secluded. There's not much activity around. You can probably find some gators if you're looking for them in
Yeah.
Florida. But most of these lakes that we're on are pretty active. And they're also filtered out. Like if any of us sees, that activity, they're pretty quick to have Florida wildlife fishing game come out, and they take those to a lake that don't have people on them, basically. So
Oh, you're absolutely right. Like I did a few weeks ago an episode, a kind of a refresh of how, how to live on a lake in Orlando. And I talked about things like that. And it's so funny that people from out of town just freak out when they hear lake, Blackwater. They immediately think gators. Gators are afraid of the boat noise. They don't know what the boats are.
yeah,
Like you said, activity. And the closer you are to city center, near downtown, the more homes, people, traffic has been there for, in many cases, a couple hundred years, and or at least 100 years. The gators are not there, so that's not something we need to worry about. But I appreciate you, Sam, filling us in on a little bit of the history and why Orlando is kind of blossomed over the years to become the mecca here. Now, for my own information, I want to know. I think the listener want to know too that the wakeboarding to me has become kind of a broad term to describe water sports, as you've alluded to. It kind of people would say, "Oh, do you water ski?" And that kind of meant, do you get? In my mind, it meant do you get pulled behind a boat on something, and it's kind of the broad term. So for me, it's like it describes water sports, but is wakeboarding still the most popular water sport right now? And can you discuss some of the other water sports that you're into and that people may not know about or are newer?
sure. So wakeboarding is definitely kind of that beginning, like branch off of creating kind of wake, and I have a large respect for it. It's consists of riding behind a boat, say 65, 70 feet. You're going about 20 miles an hour, and you're strapped into a board, and you're usually going from one side of the wake to the other while holding onto a rope. And you can do pretty intricate, stylish tricks with that. But I would say over the past probably 10-ish, 15-ish years, there's a sport called wake surfing that's evolved. And there's actually mechanisms on the back of boats that you can, um, like there's gates that can come out of the side of the boat on like platform, on like right beside the platform, and it can actually offset the boat. Um, it's called delayed convergence of water. It's actually patented by Malibu, but it's called a surf gate. But it can pop out on one side, and it
Okay.
can literally offset the boat to where you can create a wake on the other side, and it's a wake that's big enough to actually push a rider without a rope. And so in this case, you're only going about anywhere from like 10 to 11 and a half miles an hour. So, and then you're probably about 15 to 20 feet, sometimes 25 feet behind the boat. And you can actually let go of the rope, and then you can ride the wave as if you were surfing in the ocean.
Nice.
And, I think that has grown so much because it reaches a broader range of age of people. So for a younger kid, to not take a smack or a hard fall being strapped into a board going 20 miles an hour, as well as, an older adult being able to go out and do the same thing without the risk of injury, and
Yeah.
like, because they still have to go to work the next day or maybe later that day. So it's captivated a larger group of audience. And I feel like the way you can customize the waves these days, man, it's pretty awesome that you can ride that far back, literally feel like you're almost in the ocean and just surfing, and you're just um, the the people inside the boat can kind of be right there where you're at too. So it's kind of, in a sense, it's a family manner as well. It kind of brings families together a little bit. You can see like trial and progression. You can see, like the smiles, and you can like talk to them. So there's like a connection there. So that's what I found is pretty cool about it.
Yeah.
And then there's also what is called foiling, which is
Yeah.
actually a newer thing. It consists of a board that has a connection below it, and it's called a mast, and it's, I'd say, about 30 inches, and then you actually have a wing, and then another small wing that are kind of very close together, and it's connected through what's called a fuselage. So there's a mast and a fuselage that connect,
Okay.
and that you're able to ride the energy of the wave, and you have this glide that you can literally like come off, and you can actually like pump. I'm sure by now the videos have gone around the internet to where most
Yeah.
people have seen it. They may not know what it is, but it is a really cool and growing sport where, like everyone's trying all different types of shapes. We're like with a wakeboard or surfer, you're like, all right, here's kind of the template for, what a wakeboard or a surfer is. And we can kind of change little bits and pieces outside of that. But foiling is still just like uncharted waters where like
Mhm.
everyone's still trying to find out what's the best and like the best technology to go about it. So it's a really cool, I'd say most current sport out of all of wake. Um, Something that you can also do in the ocean too, but it's really cool and something. It's probably one of my favorite right now as well. So
Well, that's awesome. It's so great to hear the evolution, and so many things become stagnant in our lives. Generations move on, become old, and the sports of their day kind of fall to the wayside. But in water sports, it's a fast evolution. It sounds like my neighbor is exactly what you described. He is an old, where I'm in my early 40s, he is in his mid 40s. He's obsessed with wake surfing. I would say another good thing about wake surfing is you can do it on smaller lakes. I live on a relatively smaller lake. It's not like the Conway chain or the Butler chain. Wakeboarding traditionally, you're going 20 miles an hour. You need some distance.
yeah,
And wake surfing, you can just go in a big lazy circle around the lake and accomplish it. And it sounds like the foiling is the same. And if you guys haven't seen foiling out there, you need to Google it. It is awesome, and it applies to. I've seen windsurfing using foilers. I've seen somebody holding a sail like in their hands. It's not connected to the board. I mean, it's evolving like crazy. So Sam, thank you for sharing that. Orlando has more lakes than just about any other city in the entire country. And so, Sam, if the listener wants to live on a lake, uh, this is obviously a good city to make that happen. And I mean, that's one of the main reasons Orlando became the Mecca with the weather, of course. So if somebody wants to live on a lake in Orlando, specifically for water sports, I already mentioned the size of the lake is a thing. What is the best lake to be on, number one? And what are some of the best lakes to be on for specifically water sports?
sure. So I would have to say personally, I might be a little biased, but I would say
Okay.
Clear Lake.
Yeah.
Clear Lake's awesome. It's a great size. You know, it's not as big as like Conway, and it's a single lake, and then it has these canals. There's probably eight-ish canals that are parallel with one another, and they're all along one side. Um, but the way you can connect with your neighbors and just the tight knit community that we have, just being able to go out in our backyard and just be able to like wave at your neighbor like, hey, you go down on the boat? And like, yeah, cool, come pick me up before you go, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're off. And then, not to mention, we have a variety of different wakers, so to speak. Um, Also, pro riders that live in the neighborhood. We have, like some of the top athletes who are competing, like at this day and time, and then we have some of the people that have like really brought the sport to where it is today. That have maybe evolved into just like a higher position in a brand, but are still known as what we call legends. And we have coaches in here, including myself. Like we have pretty much everything you could think about water sports. We have someone in this neighborhood who does it. So another great thing is, if you ever have complications with boats or you know injury or anything, like you've always got someone else that can kind of pop out to you real quick, and then they can tow you back or address the situation. So that's also nice too. But say Clear Lake weren't the lake for you, and there were other areas that you were kind of looking for in Orlando,
Mhm.
that are wake oriented, I would say there's Lake Holden and then also Lake Jessamine,
Yeah.
which are also relatively small as well. They're private, so you don't have a lot of activity outside of the neighborhood, which can be huge because when you start getting to those bigger chains like the Windermere, Butler chain, Conway, Winter Park, you get a lot of people that come in and are unexperienced, and they'll try jet skiers specifically. Like, and I have a jet ski too. I love jet skiing, but in the right manner. You know, you have people that come and they'll, you know, like they'll have all their buddies 7 jet skis deep, and they want to jump your first wave, which is the same wave that the rider's on, and then, you know, they all of a sudden get distracted, or, you know, they're not that comfortable with driving it, and before you know it, you know, like, boating is dangerous, and if you don't take the right precautions, you can definitely have an accident before you know what's going on.
Well,
So
you're absolutely right. That's another thing I discussed in my other podcast episode is the lake, private versus public. A lot of people don't think about that. Everybody wants to live on the Conway chain where down where I'm at, or they want to live on the Butler chain if they got the money to afford it. They don't realize there's multiple public ramps. Not only do you have folks that don't know what they're doing and are inconsiderate, but then you got the ones that go out there on the weekends, get drunk, and they're driving their boats. So those private lakes, there is something to be said about the private lakes. And the ones he mentioned, Jessamine and Holden, are also very close to downtown Orlando. And believe it or not, where they're oriented geographically, many times the real estate is cheaper on some of those lakes than it is, say, the Conway and certainly the Butler chain. So if that's something you're interested in as a listener, let me know. I can certainly help you out with that. And Sam, thank you for mentioning that. Just to keep on moving here, my wife wants to hire someone to teach our kids, all right, to wake surf,
yeah,
and she wants to learn how to wakeboard and all that stuff. She's like a semi-pro volleyball player, so she can handle it. But if the listener out there is like my wife and wants to start learning water sports, or for their kids to learn, how can you help them accomplish that?
yeah. So I do a number of things for coaching. I can do online coaching. If you wanted to do like a session, say you're, you know, on your boat out of, you know, town, and you wanted, you know, you wanted to send some stuff over, or you can do live video chat coaching, where I literally can see what's happening, and I can relay to the person holding the phone. You can coach that way. I get a boat through Liquid Planet. They're the Malibu access dealer here. So I have a brand new, currently M220 2025, and makes
If you guys are listening to this and you can't see him, like the smile on his face as he looks out his window at this new boat is,
I'm
he
literally looking
can't
at it.
hide his joy. I'm telling you right now for this new
Yeah.
boat.
So, but yeah, I
Good for
have
you.
a new boat, and we can just pop right out to the lake. I'm like 4 houses in from the canal, so we can shoot right out there and do some lessons there. I have all types of boards from Hyperlife, from surf style, skim style, pretty much any weight that you know, have kids boards, people that are, you know, 200-300 pounders. We've got a board for you. So if you know, if you need something like that, we can definitely help you. And I do a lot of mobile coaching as well. So I actually prefer that if people already have a boat, that I'd like to go to their normal habitat, you know, like where they're constantly going to be riding. And I can bring this headset. It's called BB Talking, which you mentioned earlier. But
Sure.
I literally wear a headset, and I have a microphone. And then the rider also wears a headset. It's just on a hat. So it's just like normally wearing a hat, and they have a headset and a microphone, and we can literally chat in real time, back and forth to one another, and I can just be so much more precise and detailed with my coaching, to be able to just let the riders know, you're like, hey, move your foot over a little bit more this way, or, you know, move your hips to distribute weight over one foot or the other differently. You can just do that so much quicker with a headset like that. So
I can imagine my next door neighbor listening to this right now and freaking out because, yeah, it's a lot of people want to think about, oh, yeah, you need a coach for beginners. But if you're really serious about any sport, I mean, freaking Novak Djokovic has a coach, like the best athletes in the world, golfers, they all have coaches. So if you're an amateur, waker, right? See, I'm learning the lingo, and you
yeah.
want to brush up and just refine your skills. I mean, Sam can help you do that. And my neighbor has an awesome wake surfing boat, so maybe that could be my wife's way of getting you over here. We could sweeten the pot with my neighbor.
Yeah, yeah, we can definitely do that. And I
Awesome.
like to focus on like the foundation of like tricks and stuff too. So like a lot of people will just try to learn a trick to learn a trick, and then they'll try to, get to the next one and to the next one, and they
Mm,
start creating kind of like some bad habits where, if you kind of like, I think just like with everything else, if you can really, if you know what to look for, and to like strive towards getting those foundational skills kind of dialed in, all those other tricks will come with ease, and not
right.
only ease, but you'll be able to apply like some style and like air to them, which I think is the proper way that should be done. And that's another thing that I harp onto, and like to see people's, not only their riding get better, but also like their style. Like it looks good, it's more pleasing, and it feels great to like add your own little, everyone's got like a little bit different, touch and taste to how things are, the tricks out there. So it's always fun to see everyone's different, just like little touch on it.
Sure,
It's
it's
unique.
it's about being creative, right?
Yeah.
Left brain, you're just telling them what to do, but you got to apply it, and applying it's the right brain, and then adding your creativity. I mean, everyone's body size and shape is different. Feet, uh, by default, they're going to have to do it somewhat different than you. They're not your body,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of more fun, right? Like you said,
Oh yeah.
dude. I can imagine, Sam. I can imagine what your working like life must be like. I envision a job that most people would die for. Obviously, I know this is your job, so don't take that as a defensive thing. But I mean, learning new tricks, teaching others water sports, testing out new wakeboards and new wake technology, testing out new boats, stuff that I didn't even know about, like the microphones. Having sponsors pay you to do it. I mean, that's like a dream for a lot of listeners out there. I guarantee you. What also, I can imagine you doing this with your friends, and you alluded to that, being on Clear Lake and being surrounded by other wake pros, eh, and photographers and the like. So speaking of those folks, those friends, like, can you describe kind of what it's like in a tight knit way? Like what's the Orlando water sports and wake like community and culture like?
And I would say probably one of the nicest and most inviting crews that I feel like I've seen if I look across the board of like extreme sports. So um, like I just feel like one, you're on a boat or on a jet ski. Everyone always needs a second person, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can't just go drive the boat until they figure that out. You can't just go drive the boat by yourself. So one, you're always in need of someone.
Right.
But two, I just feel like I can literally go anywhere across the country, and or like anyone could do this. They could go anywhere across the country and just post like, "Hey, I'm in town and I'm like looking for a ride." I think it's proper that you bring, either some gas money or some gasoline. But
Of
other than
course.
that, like you can pretty much hop on with anyone, and everyone's always trying to learn something from one another, and just like super open to meeting people, and just experiencing the sport together, and sharing what they have. Like I don't think I don't think I've had a horrible experience where like, wow, they were just like total jerks, and I don't like, I mean, I definitely felt unwanted at on the boat, like, and given I do like a lot of coaching and riding and stuff, so that may be a little different, but I've never seen that outside of my atmosphere of like someone having a someone having a bad time on a boat, but two,
Mhm.
someone like, like having drama on a boat, basically. Like it's just I don't know, it's just this atmosphere that you have is everyone enjoys it, puts everyone at ease, and it's something everyone wants to be a part of. So
Absolutely. It's a cool thing. I mean, people want to be associated with cool stuff. It's awesome to see. It's a spectacle to enjoy. And my neighbor Robbie is exactly what you described. I mean, when I first moved to my house here, he was already living next door with his boat. And hey, let's get on the water. Dad, I'd love to teach you how to wake surf, and bring the family, bring the kids. And he's invited me so many times. I've taken it up on him a handful of times, but and all the friends I've met that live on the lake here that are the same, um, that are into the wake sports, same thing. I'm going to pivot real quick though, Sam. Social media is a huge part of my business as a real estate agent and property developer, and just trying to spread the word of Orlando, and helping people out. And it's transformed many lives, both personal and their working lives, and in some cases not for the best. But you alluded to this earlier, where wake sports basically transitioned away from print media. So how has social media transformed the water sports industry?
Man, it's I feel like it drastically has changed it, but in like a couple ways. So I feel like used to be the most desired athlete from a sponsorship perspective was, who rides the best in the contest and who can do the coolest tricks, um, and pretty much, like also like the personality. But I would say what is more valuable to someone that would be sponsoring a rider, um, social media is huge for that. I see like some of the people that may not be the best in the industry, but are
Yeah.
posting on a daily basis, and in I would say the general public's mind, they get kind of more, I guess you call it fame or like noticeability, of just being constantly in people's eyes versus like, the contest scene used to be really big, and still kind of is in Europe, but here in the US, I feel like it's dwindled down drastically just because everyone can access it on their phone immediately. Like you can just, go to someone's name or you could just type in like hashtag wakeboarding, and then there's just so many um people riding, doing cool things, to where it's kind of taken away from the contest scene a little bit, which is kind of sad. But it's just the way it's evolving, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's just something that you have to adapt to or get left behind.
Well, no kidding, and I feel like it's a lot of parallels to real estate agents and a lot of other industries. You don't need to be the best real estate agent. Like you could not know your ass from your elbow about real estate, but you could be really good at posting cool videos of houses and giving people information, and they're going to want to work with you as a real estate agent. It sounds like it's a similar thing. The sponsors, they want the eyeballs, right? They
Yeah.
want people that are going to consume their products and purchase their products. Um, but from what I've seen, it looks like you're pretty solid at it. So make sure you guys check out Sam. It's Sam Langley on IG. That's interesting. Was there anything else you wanted to say about that?
Um, no, not necessarily. I just think
Okay.
it's like with that, it's definitely shifted the athletes' ideas of like what it is to be an athlete. So used to it was focus on contests and then like have the relationship with the videographer or photographer, because they were able to make their own living off of doing that as well, and then
Right.
like be in touch with the magazine companies. But that's all shifted to now you're your own photo videographer. So like your boys on the lake, they better be good with an iPhone or with a GoPro, and
Yeah.
like 'cause you're pretty much have become from just writer to you're now a producer, and you got to know how to work an editing program, and you got to know how to market yourself. Like it's you take on all these extra roles, like all these hats that you wear that like to the common eye you think, oh, this person just goes out and rides, but you've got to like cultivate like all these extra skills that it's taxing. It takes time. Like for me to edit a video is 3 hours, 4 hours, and that might be like a 30-40 second clip on Instagram or sometimes even shorter, but it
Yeah.
takes up time and it becomes a job to some degree. But it's just like I said, adapting and trying to figure out what works best. So
For sure, for sure. I can relate to that completely. But you mentioned this relationships. You mentioned the relationships you have with the videographers and photographers. And you told me when we first spoke before the podcast recording that the key to your success, really, or one of the key reasons to your success, is the relationships that you've had and cultivated and still have in the industry today. So a lot of people that listen to my podcast, and I'm this, are entrepreneurs and business owners, or at least they want to be. So I mean, and that's who you are. You're a business owner. You're an entrepreneur. Like, how have the relationships in your life led to your success, and how do they pertain to entrepreneurship as you understand it?
and I would say relationships have done probably the most, out of just cultivating where I was at. So when I first moved here, I moved to Orlando, didn't know anyone in the scene. I knew like some people from online, but I actually joined the wakeboard tour as a worker. So like a carny, so to speak. We actually would go to these places across the country. It'd be like every weekend we would go pop up shop. We'd build the rails, make the venue, and then we would take it all down on Sunday, like right after the event. Get everything boxed up to get onto the truck to go to the next location, fly home next weekend, go back, do the same exact thing. Um, and it was kind of like, man, I want to be where those guys are at on the just coming here, doing the contest, and then leaving and making the money. And it's kind of tough a little bit because it's like I want to be there. I don't want
Yeah.
to be here doing all this stuff. But um, doing that and just getting introduced literally to everyone, seeing who everyone is, kind of like their personalities, and working with a lot of people that were on staff doing the judging, or like because all these guys that are also working, they're either like up and coming, like trying to make it as well, or they've already like had their time in the sport and
Mm.
industry, and then they've kind of just um, transferred to like a different, whether they're a manager or whatnot. And so like meeting those people, you get insight as to like who all they know as well, and so
Yeah.
like, and then all of a sudden you're like working on like a video shoot. You're like helping out driving the jet ski, and all of a sudden you're working with like Sean Murray, which is like a big name across the you know US that people know very well, and you're like, holy crap, like he's like right there. And then all of a sudden you're like doing a job with him, doing video stuff, and then all of a sudden you're his teammate. So like it's just like it's funny how meeting people and making these relationships that, I don't know, just one step at a time push
Yeah.
you in like one direction or the other, and then it just blossoms from there. And I would say that's any type of job I've got in this industry leading up to what I'm doing now. One, I didn't have like a focus like this is exactly where I'm going. I just knew I wanted to be immersed in this industry.
Hmm.
But every, I think, like group of people that I've met in the industry have blossomed me to like exactly to where I am right now. Just meeting someone that knows another person that's like, hey, you should go check this out, or like, hey, you should get a job here. Like you should, so it's pretty sweet.
I love it, and that's an awesome story. And to me, it can apply to any career path, but on a broader base, it just can apply to your life. I mean, the more relationships you have that are high quality, that are reciprocal, where you care about the person and they care about you, the more opportunities are going to be presented to you, right? The more doors that are going to be opened for you, the more luck that you're going to experience, right? Luck
Yep.
is preparation meeting opportunity. Preparation and opportunity are in my mind part and parcel to relationships. They can help you be prepared. They can present the opportunity. So I love that you shared that, and I think a lot of that'll resonate with a lot of people out there. And Sam, that was the last question I had for you. But to recap our conversation, I think Orlando is the best city in the United States. I say that every episode, and I truly believe it. One of the main reasons that's the case is our lakes and our weather, and those are the two big reasons why you mentioned Orlando evolved into basically the biggest wake sport city in the United States. So thank you so much for being here. Um, I want to plug your IG handle again and all your sponsors real quick. So again, if you want to book Sam for coaching, whether you're a beginner or a budding expert, you want to find him on IG at Samuel Langley, Langley. And his sponsors, I'm just going to read you off their sponsor handles. They're all at IG and on IG at the at symbol. So Hyper Light Wake for his board manufacturers, Jet Pilot USA for his vests, life vests, Liquid Planet Marine, which is his boat dealer that he was so jazzed about earlier in the episode. And then BB Talkin without the G, BB Talkin USA. That's for the headsets for drivers and riders. And don't forget about my real estate services. While we're plugging Sam, might as well plug myself again. I'm a listing expert in today's market where it's more balanced. It's crazy. You got to have a great listing agent that can help you sell your house, not just at the best price, but also fast. Homes are sitting on the market a lot longer. I can help you do that utilizing something called the auction effect, which I can explain later. And a portion of all my commissions, regardless of if you're a buyer or seller, are always going to go to charity, either the charity of your choosing or New Image Youth Center. Like and subscribe to all my socials, Phil Kruses with a K, Kruse. Subscribe to me on YouTube, subscribe to me wherever you're listening to this. New episodes drop every Monday. Turn on your notifications so you get notified, so you can learn more about Orlando, like from badass Orlando celebrities, basically, like Sam. Sam doesn't know this, but a couple of his buddies told me candidly that they think he's the best boarder in Orlando. So FYI.
Wow.
Yeah. So congrats to you. And Sam, I just want to say thanks again. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Phil. I greatly appreciate it. And hopefully we made a cool podcast for you.
Yeah, you did. There's no way that is not true. So, and for the listener out there, always know that your best life in Orlando is within reach. Keep embracing every moment. Thanks again, Sam. Cheers,
Yeah,
everybody.
man.